my first form of art was photography in high school. That led to Photoshop, and that led to just like design, and that led to, all this other stuff. And then music was always a part of me. I come from like this like punk rock underground background of, like hardcore music and punk rock. And that's what I toured in, like those kinds of bands. And so
you're just cool. Like you just bleed cool indie. Like I hang in that scene. I know how to
Not
play.
anymore. I would say that I'm not cool like I used to be. My younger self would definitely make fun of where I am right now and be like, you're a clown, you're a nerd. Like, what is this nerd shit you're doing?
Hello, everyone. GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. We have a special guest. Are you the first guest other than Zeneca? You may be the first guest in 2023 on Overpriced JPEGs.
Let's go.
Welcome to ThankYouX, the one and only incredibly talented artist. Folks probably are familiar with his work. You started out as a street artist, which is very interesting. And that's where, if I remember correctly, the ThankYouX signature and name came from. Yep. You did paintings and sculptures. Now you do geometric cube paintings, these large-scale abstract works. I believe you have one behind you right now that looks fresh as F.
Thank you.
Super fresh. As folks know, I swear on this podcast, if you have kids in the car, you know what's going to happen. I want to start by way of getting some of your background with a fact that I love about you, which is Paul McCartney commissioned one of your works. Paul McCartney, the Sir Paul McCartney. Yeah. Tell us how that happened, and that'll get us into a little bit of your backstory.
So, yeah, I got connected, and they were looking for a younger image of Paul, and they wanted something to like kind of like lock in this like specific. They had a specific photo that they wanted me to use as like a reference. This is back when I was doing mostly stencil, street art, and image-based art, and they saw my stuff and liked it and wanted to commission a piece. And so I did. I actually made two. I made one for myself and then one for him, just because I was like, in a situation like that, I was like, I'm gonna make two, and whichever one is better, I will give to him, and then I'll keep mine for my memories. But what was cool about that is I got to meet him and like his manager and all that stuff, and sit with them for about 10 minutes, like, just me and him, which was very cool and awkward. But then they liked the piece, the final piece, and ended up asking me if they could use the art for a tour lithograph. So they actually sold like prints of it on tour, which was very cool for me. And I got to keep some of those as well. And that was like the first time in my like art career that my dad was like, oh, you're like a real artist. He's like, if Paul McCartney likes your stuff, then you're real. Yeah.
You've made it. That's incredible. Yeah. So how old were you at that point? What year are we talking? Not to make you now fully reveal your age.
What is age, No, this was in 2011, I believe, I believe it was 2011 or end of 2010. It was on the Run tour, on the Home Run tour, or something like that. I can't remember.
It would have been his tour. Was it his tour? It was probably On the Run, because that was a Wing song. I actually think I went to that. I think I saw him during that tour.
Well, he did one that was called like On the Home Run or something like that. And it was based because he was performing at all baseball stadiums.
Oh, then I saw him at Fenway, I think.
It was probably that. It was probably that one then. Yeah.
Got it. And so how many years into your artistic career, I'm assuming you've been doing art your whole life, but like, how many years were you into really pursuing art at that point?
Well, at that point I was moonlighting as an artist. I was actually a full-time graphic designer and art director for a music merchandising company. I was on my way out. I had already quit by the time I got that commission. And it was the music merchandising company who showed him my stuff, and they were actually they didn't know I was an artist. I'd been doing art as ThankYouX since 2009, and I was doing it all illegally at night, running around the city of LA, just putting up my art all over town. And I would come back to work the next morning. But I had quit, and then they were like, why are you quitting? I said, well, I'm actually an artist. I've been doing some group shows, some like brand partnerships, this and that. I do street art. And they were like, wait, what? Why did we never know this? And I was like, well, it's illegal and, whatever. But and then after I left, they were like, hey, like Paul McCartney wanted this art piece, and then we showed him your stuff and he really liked it, so he wants you to do it. And so they were who connected me. And it was kind of funny because they were like, so how much do you charge for this? And I was like, well, actually, like, it was the first time I got to do something outside of my former salary that I was with them. And it was kind of like it was actually like my first commission after leaving the company. So it was a really big deal for me. So
I mean, if ever you needed validation that you made the right choice, is that what it felt like at the time? Like, okay, I was nervous. Were you nervous to leave your corporate job? Were you like, oh my gosh, I'm taking this scary, uncharted path? And then the most validating thing I could possibly imagine is to make that decision and then have Paul McCartney want one of your artworks.
I knew I wanted to leave. I just was scared. My mom really didn't want me to leave because she looks at it as like, this is security. This is like, you have a 401k. This is like, it was my first and ever only real job. I've worked like every other job, like that you can think of, like retail, all this kind of stuff. And so leaving that was hard because I was walking away from like a guarantee. But my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, her like point of view was that you can always come back and get another job somewhere else, back here, wherever, but you don't always have this opportunity to run with what you have. And like, you've been building this momentum and, you're passionate about it right now and And so she was who really convinced me to take that leap, which, like is also scary. Cause then if I fail, then I'm like, okay, hey, I'm your boyfriend that doesn't have a job and doesn't have any money and stuff like that. So, but she was very, very encouraging. So,
Smart move marrying her.
Shout out to Eden. Yeah. So Eden, she's been my like number one supporter. So she was really, really the reason that like pushed me into like pursuing it full time.
And then you left and were doing art full time. And did you have any moments after you left where you're like, oh, maybe I made the wrong move? Or was it from day one, like, oh no, this was the right choice. And it's been like smooth sailing, so to speak, ever since?
I don't think it was smooth sailing by any means. It was definitely, okay, I did these few things. I made enough money to survive for like 3-4 months, right? Eating ramen, leftovers, that kind of stuff. And yeah, I hit a lot of like, very low points, not like low points, but like points where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is not going how I planned. I knew I wanted to do it and I was happy having the freedom of that. But at the same time, the things that I wanted just weren't working out how I wanted them to. So I just kept going. Just like, thinking that I was just going to get a gallery, like a high-end gallery show right away, or just like opportunities like that. So like I would present things to galleries, and I did have my own hype that I was building on my own, and I had like sales and collectors that were like it was pretty consistent, but then it would be like, a gallery would turn me down. So it was like this almost momentum where it's like enough to survive.
And it's like happening, and then
but we're not going to let you go to the next level. So just kind of stay where you are in that lane and keep doing what you're doing. And then, a few people will buy your stuff, kind of thing. And then when I really sat down and I was like, okay, I got to a point where I was known for kind of doing this image-based stuff, mostly about Andy Warhol. And I got to a point where I didn't want to do that anymore. And I felt like that was kind of what was holding me back a little bit, because people looked at me as like, oh, you're the guy who does that. And it was this like one-dimensional thing that people knew me as. And so I think that once I was able to sit down and think about like, okay, what do I want my art to be? My curator at the time, Roger Gassman, I was talking to him and I was like, what do I do? How do I stop selling these Andy Warhol pieces? And I don't want to paint his portrait anymore. People are buying it because they like him, not because they like me. And he's like, just kill Warhol. And I was like, okay, sounds very provocative. I like that. So I did one more Andy Warhol commission to save up again. Like, okay, this will last me, like I can survive off this for, this long, and my rent is this. And then I just sat in my studio and did like everything you can think of, like a bunch of different techniques. I like just started painting, like no plan, just go. From there, I got like a gallery show, and then I got like a group show, a gallery show. I did a private show. And yeah, that's kind of when it really started like growing for me more. is like when I stopped doing the street art stuff and really focused on like what I was actually inspired by in the moment.
Do y'all realize what's happening over at Ledger? That the #1 leader in digital asset security has teamed up with Tony Fadell, builder of the iPod, to revolutionize the experience of owning digital assets securely. They're doing this with Ledger STAX. This is the most premium product to date, and it's so user-friendly. Ledger STAX is a palm-sized device with a new e-Ink 2 display on the cover and around the spine, meaning you can view and confirm transactions at a glance. You can also customize your ledger by displaying your favorite NFT on the cover, even when the device is off. Pair your new Ledger STAX with your Ledger Live to manage, earn, and hodl all your NFTs and over 500 coins. This space needs sleek user experiences, our iPod moment, and that's what Ledger has set out to do here without compromising their core promise of security. Keep your digital assets in the safest place they can be, a Ledger STAX wallet. Trust yourself with Ledger STAX and go to shop.ledger.com to pre-order your Ledger STAX now. They're shipping in April. And if you use the link in our show notes to pre-order now, you'll be helping the show as well. Thank you. How did you stay self-motivated at that time when, you know, it was like hunger? Like, is it like, I need to eat?
No, to be honest with you, it was kind of like
working on the craft.
Yeah, I basically thought that I would get a job. I was like, okay, I'm going to get a job so I can like use the job to pursue like my new venture into this new world of art. And because I never thought like when people are like starving artists, you can still go get a job.
Yeah.
Like most people, you know, like,
Yeah.
So I was not above getting a job. I knew what it took because that's how I was able to launch my first round, was like having a full-time job. I was like, well, art is expensive. Like printing out posters to go out at night, making stencils, buying paint, spray paint, like this stuff is not cheap, buying canvases. So I was like, what am I going to do to fund this next phase? And then I just posted it on Instagram, like a piece, and I hadn't shown anything. I was just like, hey, new me or new phase or something like that. And then immediately I got a few DMs and I was like, oh, people like this. Okay, cool. And I did a piece for the DJ Zed. And that was like a big thing where it's like, oh, so he was actually the first person to buy a piece from this new series. And it's, you know, still in his house today. So that's pretty cool.
And was that all, did he discover it also because you had your foot in the music world and worked at this agency?
A little bit. Yeah. Like we had some mutual friends and, but we weren't super close. But we followed each other on Instagram, and then he saw it and then had his team like reach out to me and be like, yeah, he likes that. And then we started talking, and then
you were just in like cool people scene. Like you were like cool art LA. Like how did that happen?
Well, I guess maybe because I come from music and all my friends were in music, they all started out as like interns at like labels or management companies. And then, you know, over the years start like work your way up. I never had a plan like that. I never had this like thing of like, okay, this,
cool.
and then I'm going to be an artist. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to have like a crazy normal job forever. And I'm always in these creative fields. Like my first form of art was photography in high school. That led to Photoshop, and that led to just like design, and that led to, you know, all this other stuff. And then music was always a part of me. I come from like this like punk rock underground background of, you know, like hardcore music and punk rock. And that's what I toured in, like those kinds of bands. And so
you're just cool. Like you just bleed cool indie. Like I hang in that scene. I know how to
not
play.
Anymore. I would say that I'm not cool like I used to be. My younger self would definitely make fun of where I am right now and be like, you're a clown, you're a nerd. Like, what is this nerd shit you're doing?
Well, like what? What's the nerd shit? Like
just
owning
like
a home
NFTs and like your,
NFTs.
And that like too. Just like oh cute, like normal life, like
sense.
Yeah, oh so
stability.
So yeah, stability. Yeah, no, but oh my god, he's so mature. But no, like I think that, you know, I come from this like very anti-establishment, very you know, against the grain, that kind of stuff. Where now it's more, you know, I just want to create, you know, and so whatever that means from there.
Not to like hyper focus on Sir Paul McCartney, but I have two more questions.
Okay.
One, which is very tactical, which is, so this music company comes to you and they say, Paul McCartney is interested in your work, and you're pretty early in your journey of being a solo, you make your living as an artist. How did you decide what you were going to charge him? Like, did you go to other artist friends and say, what's normal? Like, what do I charge Paul McCartney for a piece of work?
So I actually think, I can't remember the total price, but I remember saying to the company, so at that time I could sell pieces for like, you know, $1,000, like on the side. And then I would do other things where if it was a commission, maybe it was a little bit more. This one, I told the company, basically the company they were still looking at me as like the in-house, you know, art director that like, would show up late and drink like a Red Bull at 10 a.m. And, you know, like they were looking at me like that kind of guy. And so I told them, I was like, okay, cool. Well, like, here's what I sell pieces for in galleries and shows. And they were like, okay, well, yeah, that's not going to happen. So like, it was basically just like, they're like, look, you have to be realistic. We're not going to do that. So it has to be something else. And so they basically determined what I was going to get. And I could either say yes or no. And I just said yes. So,
Sure.
It was like, I want to say it was like $1,700 or like $2,000 or something like that, at the time, which I was totally fine with, because I knew that it's like, you know, a nice tick box right there. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, that is then my second question, of course, which is like,
Celebrities always ask for discounts, by the way. It's weird.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Like I did a piece for Elon Musk and they asked for a discount. Wow. This was before he was like, you know, the
Elon.
The guy he is now.
Yeah. This was, and whatever.
Yeah.
So that I have such mixed feelings about this. You know, Paul McCartney, I think got flack because he would really underpay the musicians that would tour with him when he was in Wings post the Beatles. And on the one hand, you're like, yeah, of course, because people are willing to take no money to tour with Paul McCartney because what that does for your resume is incredible. But also, like, you have money. Like, I feel very weird about it. How do you feel about it as an artist?
Yeah, I think that it, like, the fact that the money wasn't going to be life-changing either way for me.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, no one says, like, oh, yeah, Paul McCartney bought his piece for this much. It's Paul McCartney bought his piece. And so that brings more value than, you know, $10,000, $20,000 would have. At the time, that would have been great. But, like, I think I was asking for, like, $3,500. And then they were like, okay, try, like, $1,700 or $2,000 or whatever it was, which it was, like,
it's a trivial difference in some ways. And, you know,
sure, yeah.
You're not buying a house in one and not the other, right?
And to be fair, I don't think it was Paul McCartney himself saying that. I think it was the company being scared to go too high. It's always like the middleman who's like scared to like, oh, well, you know, and I don't know, maybe they could have charged $3,500, to be honest.
And taken a cut.
And then taken the cut. You know, I don't really know the back end of how it worked. I'm not trying to like diss anyone because like everyone was very great during the process. So it's like, I don't really know, but yeah, there are tons of circumstances that could happen. But as far as underpaying, it's also like, did they agree to it? I don't know. Like, you know, like maybe they needed it. Maybe that was life-changing money for them at the time. And then they just agreed to a certain year contract or something like that. And I don't know. I think there's always room for negotiation though.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question, which is after you do something like that, like did that change? Like, is that something you started putting out on socials to sell more pieces? Like, is that a thing that you then use? And did you see an uptick? I don't know where you were in the timeline of your Warhol or transition out of Warhol, but like in terms of more people buying your work because you have that accolade?
I was still in like the Warhol, like image-based stuff phase, which is why like it fit with what I was doing.
Sure.
You know, I think that it helped when I would meet with collectors and talk about it. And I probably posted like one picture of it on my Instagram at the time, which wasn't like, you know, I would get like, you know, 50 likes or something. Yeah, I think it helped more in the context of who I was and what I was doing versus like it being the thing that set me off.
Sure.
If that makes sense. There's a good story though. I was actually with a collector, a guy who wanted to buy a piece. Cause a lot of times what will happen is like, you'll meet someone, they like your art and they'll be like, hey, like, let's get coffee or let's go eat or come here. So this guy invites me to Soho House and I go to Soho House with him in LA and we're sitting there and It's like a buffet. And I didn't know. I was like, I don't know. What do you do? Grab the thing? Okay. So we go over, we're waiting in line. And then all of a sudden he nudges me and he goes, holy crap, that's Paul McCartney in front of you. And I go, oh, really? And I go, hey, what's up, Paul? And he turns around and I didn't give him I was like, okay, this could go either way, but I'm not going to let him not remember me. So I'm going to just feed him this information. I was like, what's up, Paul? I'm Ryan, ThankYouX. I did that piece for you with the da-da-da-da through da-da-da. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, how are you? What's going on? I love that piece. I still have it. And then the collector I was with is just
I'll take all of it.
And I was like, oh, this is my friend. You guys should be, and introduce him to Paul. And Paul's like, yeah, so what's going on? And this was actually right before they were doing, what was that? There was a festival in in the Coachella Valley, not Coachella, but it was all the classic bands. It was called I forget the name of it, but it was Rolling Stones.
Yeah, it wasn't was a charity thing? Was it a charity ball kind of a thing?
No, it was a big festival, but it was all classic rock bands.
It was Woodstock 2.0.
Kind of, yeah. It was called Desert something, but he was headlining that, and it was a really big deal, especially in LA. And because all these bands together, and it was the Friday or Thursday right before that. And he's like, yeah, so what's going on? How's art? I'm like, oh, it's great. I'm working on this art show right now. He's like, that's so cool, man. We'll keep it up. Good to see you. And then he's like, and good luck with the show. And I was like, hey, yeah, you too. Good luck with the show. And I was just and I was like, did I just tell Paul McCartney good luck for this show that it's probably a Tuesday for him that he's just whatever. And he's like, thanks. And then we sit down, and my collector's just oh my God, that's the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. And this is a guy who he just sold his tech company for $30 million to Intuit or something like that. And he's just on top of the world, whatever. And he's just that was the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. And I was like, oh yeah, that's crazy. He's super nice. I didn't know if he'd remember me. And then, we're finished our meal, and then Paul comes up to our table and he's like, hey, Ryan, it was really good to see you. Take care. I'll see you soon. And I made it sure to come, it wasn't on the way out. He came up to the table to make sure to say bye to me, and said my name. And it was just very, very cool. And so what did help is that collector telling everyone this story, which did sell me some pieces. Yeah.
Oh, crazy flex. That's the stuff that you fantasize about. You're someday I'll run into Paul McCartney at the perfect moment when there's a collector.
It was it couldn't have been better. If there was a hidden camera there, that would have been the only thing that would have been better. Yeah.
If somebody had caught it for social media.
Yeah.
Damn, that is a very cool story.
That was my big flex. Yeah.
Okay, well, since we're on the celebrity run, so when did you do the piece for Elon, and what was your Elon experience?
Okay, so I never met Elon, but I get a text one day. I'm in New York. I don't know what year it is. I think it's 2015 or 16. And I get a text, and it just says, I just gave Elon Musk's assistant your phone number. And it was from a friend of mine. And I was just okay, I didn't even know you knew Elon. I was just this is crazy information. It's someone I hadn't talked to in a while. And then I get a phone call from an unknown number, and I'm like, hello? And they're like, hi, this is so-and-so. I'm the executive assistant of this client, and da-da-da. Doesn't tell me who it's for. We're looking to commission something. My boss likes your work, and he wants to do something for this thing, and da-da-da, for his house. And I was like, okay, cool. And then she starts telling me more and more. And then, she's like, okay, cool. How much would this size be? That he likes this stuff, da da da. And I was like, all right, cool, yeah. And I just said the price, and then it was funny because by the way, I was supposed to sign an NDA for this, and I never did. Yeah.
Well, within your rights to talk about it here.
So it's all good. Yeah. So they came back to me, and they were like, okay, so it's a little over the budget. Could you do it for this? And it was a third of the price. And I was it was one of those moments again where I was yeah, I don't want to lose this. And I think that they people like this probably use this all the time. They're well, they want to do work for me,
Of course, yeah.
And I said yes. And I was cool, but I'm going to need a tour of SpaceX. I want and I just had I was if I do it for that, I want this, this, and this. And they're done. And I'm okay, cool. And so, Yeah, like, and I still never met Elon to this day, but I went, I delivered the art. Everyone there was like very nervous, like, okay, cool, this, that. Like someone else was like working on the house there, and like, everyone had to check their phones in at the front, and I was just like, didn't. I was like, oh no, like I need this, And I don't know why they just didn't take my phone. So I took photos of it and like of it installed in the house, and like, and then they're like, okay, cool. Did you sign the NDA? And I was like, oh, I don't think you sent me one. And they're like, okay, we'll send it to you. And I was like, all right, yeah, for sure. And then they sent it to me, and I just like never even replied to it. And then sent them an invoice, and then they paid it. But I still have like the like, copy of the check, which was pretty cool. It says like Elon Musk, whatever, like it's like a personal check, not like from SpaceX or a company. It's just like Elon Musk and whatever. But yeah, but they did get a discount, and yeah.
I guess that's how you get that right. It just feels weird. I'm like, if you have so much money, why are you nickel and dime? But not because you can't, because of course you can, because of course they do want to do. Of course you want to do work for him. I actually met Elon once. I was towards SpaceX. I worked for Andrew Yang, and he had a mustache. Grimes had found a mustache on him. I feel like you would run in the same circles as Grimes. I don't know. I don't know music well enough to be.
I've never met Grimes, but I really like her manager. I've hung out with her manager a bunch, and he's a great guy. I met him last year, and we've hung out a bunch. But like for instance, even in Miami for Art Basel, she was performing at the MoonPay party, and the MoonPay party was like a party for the collaboration that me and MoonPay did together for their passport, and she was DJing. But I was like, I'm not going to go introduce myself, whatever, like whatever. But I went up to him instead, and I was like, what's up, dude? How are you? And then like, didn't even say hi. I just like watched her perform, Yeah.
Yeah. That's too funny. Yeah. This was when she and Elon were together, and we went to SpaceX because Andrew was meeting Elon, and they had just been out together or something. And she had drawn a mustache on him in eyeliner as like a joke, like, oh, we're going to make him blend in or something. So we go to meet him. I mean, I think he was on something, to be perfectly honest. And she was like lovely. I didn't sit in on the whole meeting, but I'm at SpaceX. And this was after he'd smoked weed on Rogan, and that had been a whole thing, but before all guards were down, So like his team was still very clearly trying to present like, professional CEO vibes. And so they were like, no pictures, no pictures, no pictures. They have their meeting, we're going to go. And Grimes is like, pictures. And then we go, we take these pictures, and he's got the mustache, and his whole team was like, please don't share these pictures. It was like a whole thing. But anyway, so similar, the team was like very nervous about everything. And now clearly that leash is off. The guardrails are down. Wow. Okay. Let's talk about NFTs. How about and royalties and your latest collection and all those things. So maybe to get into this, what was the unlock for you with NFTs when you first started getting into it? Like, was royalties a part of that for you? And what got you into the NFT scene?
Yeah. So because I kind of ran with this circle in LA that was very much of like these startup kids, and I did art for some of the like local tech companies in LA. And I started meeting, people in VC, people in startups and all this stuff. And so I was kind of just in that world, and I would always try to figure out like, I love technology, and like technology pushing culture forward. It was like my favorite thing. So I felt like I was always searching for what's the marriage between my art and like something technology wise. I thought it was going to be VR. I was very heavy into VR. When that wave first was like really popping a couple of years ago, I guess it was probably like 5 years ago now, but, and then it was like 360. I was doing like all these like experiential type things with video, with my art. And it just like, nothing was really catching at the time. And so, I was still searching. And then in 2020, in the same week, like 3 different people that I'm friends with that are also, kind of crossed over into the tech culture world, they sent me a link, and it was all the same links from different people about like what was going on with NFTs and how this artist Blau was like making waves in this space. And I was like, okay, like I know of the DJ Blau, and okay, this guy, he's selling digital art as like music and NFTs. And I was like, I don't know what an NFT is. And so I like listened to a podcast, and then it like was one of those moments where it's like, we should we should rewind a little bit, you know, like in my mind. And it was like,
Yeah.
and then it took me back to 2017 when my friend Kai called me frantically one night and he's like, dude, I just saw the future. There's this thing called crypto kitties. These cats, they fuck on the blockchain and make like other cats, and you can blend them and this and that. And I was like, I don't know what any of this means, but like what do you want? He's like, we could do it with art. And I was like, oh, and I was like, so, and he basically explained blockchain to me back then. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like what Kai was talking about back then, but it's with art. It is with art, and it's actually like happening. Whereas like CryptoKitties was kind of like its own little isolated thing at that time. And it was cool, but it wasn't like interesting for me. Like, I'm not going to buy a cat at the time, you know, now I would, but at the time I wouldn't. And so, yeah, that was that like moment when I was like, okay. And I just started paying attention. I started looking at Super Rare, and I started looking at Nifty Gateway, and I started looking at Don't Buy Meme. And I was just looking at these sites like every day and just talking with a couple, like with the people who sent me the links, being like, okay, so like, what about this? What's this? Why this? Who's this? Da 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 da. And then I remember I was like, all right, I want to do this. I don't know if I fit here. You know, I want my stuff to be like this fine art and like what I do mostly. And my other friend, Jan Silva, was in the same exact boat. He was like, I'm a photographer.
I was just about to bring that up. You guys did an early collab together, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we basically teamed up together, and we both were like, look, we're both interested in this. We both don't know everything about this. We don't see anyone like us, like what we're doing in the space. So why don't we team up together? And like I say this a lot, is like my soundbite, but it's always like, you know, our plan was to fail together so that we didn't have to fail alone. And, you know, we just started getting in clubhouse rooms in like, you know, November of 2020, and listening to people and getting on stage and meeting people and asking questions, you know, giving feedback of like, from like the art kind of perspective. And then just met a bunch of people. And it was cool because I actually connected with a lot of artists that I've known for years over the world, but we would just share DMs here and there being like, oh yeah, like love your work. People like Nest Graphics or Philip Hodis or Fuck Render. All these people that, or like MP Cause, like people that I actually had plans to collaborate with before the NFT space even happened. I was like reconnecting with them being like, have you guys seen this? Are you doing this? Like, what's this thing? And then, yeah, that was like the aha moment for me, is like actually doing the drop, where I sold digital art on the blockchain with Jan Silva on Nifty Gateway. And my wife was pregnant and sleeping on the couch. And so it's like this crazy moment that's like, okay, we have an open edition that's open for, you know, 5 minutes or something like that. And then like an auction that goes on right after that. And so like 3 o'clock hits, and all of a sudden it's like, this is happening. I'm like, oh my God. But my wife's sleeping, and it's like, you can't wake your pregnant wife to tell her what's going on. She had fallen asleep, and I was like, let her sleep. And so I'm just silently freaking out. And that was like one of the most exciting times of like, that I could remember, like feeling that like rush and like excitement. And so that was the moment where I was like, I can't believe that just happened. People showed up, people cared. Wow, this is crazy. And so from there, me and Jan were just like, oh, we're all in, like, let's go. This is rad. What else can we do here? Like, let's just start exploring.
And you did like an early loyalty thing, if I'm not mistaken, right? Of rewarding your collectors with other drops, which really, you were at the very frontier of that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I did a couple things. I did like a few, like a lot of people started to do like a collector's only drop. Like if you already own a piece, any piece of mine, you can buy into this. And which is like totally cool. I like that system. But also at the same time, it's like, hey, if you buy this, then you can buy this, and then you can buy this. And I was like, okay, cool. I did this big project last year, or I started this project last year called Tracking. And it's essentially like the image of it is a beat up cardboard box, like an Amazon style cardboard box that's been like painted all over. And it's on a doorstep, and that's the NFT. And I sent it to 100 people. I mean, it was an edition of 100, and I sent it to 100 people that really helped me out in some way in 2021. Like, so I sent it on Christmas Eve. I collected all the addresses and like had Manifold at the time, like help me like deliver it and airdrop and stuff. So, and with that, it's, you know, you can do whatever you want with this NFT. You can sell it, you can keep it, whatever. But if you keep it, like there will be more to come with this one. I'll never do something like this, like a tracking 2 or anything like that. This is just its own thing. You can hold it. And so now, and it's been a year since I've done it. And so I'm releasing the first thing for it. And you just get a free limited edition print, like a hand signed print. And I pay for all the shipping, all the production of it. And so that comes out like, you know, in a week or two. So yeah, that's like one of the things, but I like to do a lot of things for my collectors. I don't necessarily apply like a utility always to something. So I like to do things that are like post utility or like post drop utility stuff. So, you know, if you hold this, and I have some sort of access to something else that's like a desired drop that everyone's trying to get on the allow list for, like they give me 100 spots, here you go, you know? So, try to reward the collectors.
When you explain to other people or to friends, we joked when we talked before this podcast, you're like, you've all these friends being like, well, what are you doing now that NFTs are dead? Or, you know, people who still don't see it or get it. Would that be the core value prop you would share with them? Like the ability to create this different kind of a relationship with your fans, your audience, your collectors? Or how would you articulate the chief value prop for an artist with NFTs?
Well, I would start with saying like, it's a direct line of communication in a way where as an artist, normally how, you know, when I sell an artwork through a gallery, it, you know, the gallery takes a percentage, which is fine, whatever. But what happens is I get a call from the gallery. Hey, that piece sold. Oh, great. Who bought it? Oh, this guy that lives in Texas. Okay, cool. Who is it? Oh, he's in entertainment. Okay, cool. Like, and they try to like block you because what they don't want is you to just go around them.
Have a direct relationship.
Yeah. They want to hold on to that relationship. And so even if like the only reason they have that relationship is because they found out that that's the gallery that sold my work, they wanted to get to me, but they didn't know how. So they went to them and then that person stops it, you know?
Wait, that's so interesting. You know, for as long as I've been in this space and I've talked to a number of artists, I actually never put that together. And I've heard other artists say the value in like knowing who my collectors are. Mm-hmm. But I did not realize that. Yeah. Like that. When they said that, I was like, huh, okay, I don't know, I guess whatever. But you actually don't know who your collectors are. That's
you don't.
Wild.
And a lot of times you'll meet someone years later and they'll be like, oh, I have this piece of yours. And you're like racking your brain. You're like, huh. And then it's like, you know, oh, you're the guy in the entertainment industry from Texas and this and that. And then you have to like put things together. And then, wow. Yeah. So a direct line. And look, like obviously like Instagram can be a direct line as well.
Sure.
A lot of people just sell direct on Instagram, but I think it's like no one knows what's happening on Instagram DMs, whereas like the blockchain happens and it's like people can see it. And so like it's a way for other collectors to become friends with each other and decide like, you know, talk about your work or this or that, or like, and it doesn't need to be on the highest level. Like when I sell prints, like I release 100 prints and I sell them online, whatever. None of those people are connected in any way. Whereas now they can go on a Discord and be like, oh, this is so cool. We're all here. Like we like this art. Or some people could be like, oh, where can I flip this or sell this or, you know, try to make money off it. Or, oh, this sucks. And then, you know, whatever, like, but people can talk and have like their own community based around art, which has kind of always been my focus. I had two like main focuses in the NFT space. It's continuing to grow what I've already been growing. So like if I'm a tree and NFTs and Web3 are a large branch of that tree now. It's not the entire tree because as the industry changes or evolves, I want to be able to grow new branches and that. A lot of artists came in, you know, maybe last year or this year, 2021 and 2022, and they planted a new tree here, and this is their entire tree, which I think is a little scarier because if, you know, the market crashes or this or that, like, where do you go from that? Like, your whole identity is based on one thing. Whereas like there's, you know, I've been, you know, doing this for a long time. And so for me personally, that's just how I find it. So I wanted to continue what I was doing with that, which is like building a community, or like I wanted to be fine art. Like I was like, I'm the fine art lane in this space. That's where I want to be. All the NFTs are essentially like, what would it look like if I was pitching the MoMA an installation that I wanted to do, if I had proper funding and everything. So a conceptual look of a ThankYouX installation at a museum. So that's why like the nifty stuff, it would be like a sculpture in a museum, and it's like a view of that. And that's kind of just been my main focus. Like I want to always be like high-end art. That's what I make, and that's what I want it to be perceived as. And then the other one is building community around art versus like, building community around, there's Bored Apes and CryptoPunks and all these other things, which are all great ecosystems and whatever. But I never really saw that based around like paintings or art, So it was always around like mostly image-based things. And I wanted to like make it more abstract, right? So that leads me into like what I just did with State of the Art with the collection.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
And I was like, okay, well, how do you make like an actual community, right? Because I have like my Discord. It was like, there was probably like hundreds of people in there. I wasn't very big on like forcing people to go to the Discord always. I just like, I would do a tweet and be like, hey, I'm doing some stuff in the Discord this week. And then I would delete the tweet later. And I never kept it in my profile. I'd just be like, let's limited time. Not like that it was like this exclusive thing. I didn't do enough in there to warrant me pushing it so much. Right. And so I didn't want people to be like let down. But when I started the State of the Art, it's like, okay, cool. Like we're actually building a community based around 4 paintings. And with that, I'm making 4 large scale paintings. Each one's 12 feet by 15 feet. And we are selling them as NFTs. But the NFT you're getting is like a tile. Each piece is broken up. Each painting is broken up into 400 tiles. So you get 1 tile when you purchase an NFT. You get the matching physical cutout of the canvas with that. So you kind of have these like 2 things from it. And we sold out in the first day that we launched it during a bear market,
which is fantastic, a testament to people's love of your work and the community you built.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. It was scary, and it was like obviously people launch like a 10K project and it sells out in 5 minutes sometimes, and that's never been my thing. Like this is the largest collection I've ever put out, so I was like pretty nervous to do it, but I knew that this is kind of what I wanted to do. And originally I was going to do 5 paintings. I remember it was going to be 2,000, and then at one point I was like, it has to be under 2,000, and I was just like, for some reason I was like, it has to be under 2,000. Like 4 is good. 1,600, that's less than 2,000. So I'm really glad I did it like that because it made it, a lot more scarce, which is fun. So yeah, and then it sold out. And then what you can do after the sellout was on the secondary market, you can buy the pieces next to yours. So if you want, if they're for sale, if you even care, you can buy the adjacent tiles to yours. So you can have now, like instead of 1, you have like maybe 4 that are connected. And with that, you get a bigger piece of the canvas now. That's like kind of like a fun gamified version. And now in the Discord, it's like we have people that are like, strongly for one of the paintings called like Driftwood. And there's another one that's like, oh, we're all about echoes, or, so it's kind of funny that people are like, oh, is anyone else in this like red swirl over here? Like, no, I'm in the like purple, like portal over here. Like, oh, cool. Like, so it becomes that like birthday cake analogy where it's like, you're looking at the birthday cake, every slice tastes the same, but like you kind of want that, like the one with the icing that says that like the person's name on it, or the happy birthday, or the strawberry, or the whatever it is.
Flower in it. Or
yeah, exactly. So, and those are all defined on people's personal tastes. So like maybe someone hates the color red. And so they are like, oh, I got a red piece. I got to sell this one and buy the green piece or buy the blue one. So it just makes a fun gamified thing where there's no set rarities to it at all. And it's all based off personal opinion.
And you were saying to me that it also has become a very white glove service you and your team are providing, which is like matchmaking people being like, oh, you want another piece so you can complete the part of the canvas that you want.
Yeah.
Maybe speak to that a little bit.
It's less of a white glove service because we're not actually facilitating any of the actual trades. We're just linking the people because we don't want to be responsible for anything like,
a rug,
maybe
somebody
one,
sends you the money and they don't send you the piece or whatever.
or something like that. Like, I mean, they're doing it pretty smart. They're like, they'll set it up on OpenSea so that like only like your wallet can buy this thing. So we're recommending like all the safe trading options. We're like, do it on OpenSea in public. Don't do any private trades, this and that.
Yeah.
Like we strongly are against, Discord DMs, all this stuff. So, but what we will do is like, we'll get this list and then I'll go on, OpenSea or whatever. And then I'll be like, oh, there's a Twitter attached to it. Oh, they follow me on Twitter. I'll DM them. Hey, how are you? Like, I'm Ryan, whatever. Like, thanks for supporting. Is there any way, you'd be willing to sell that piece? So-and-so is looking for you. They've reached out, but like, haven't got a hold of you. So, and they'll be like, oh, wow, cool. Like, oh my God, they're in my spam DMs. Okay, I'm going to talk to them now. And then that's it. And it's like, we're not saying like, sell for more, sell for less. This is the price. It's this person, they're rich or they're poor. Like, it's not like that. We're just like, here's these people. If you guys do it. That's cool. But, and then how it works is if you have the adjacent tiles, you have to merge those together as one NFT to collect the bigger canvas. So the largest one we have right now is, I believe, 30. So 30 NFTs are merged into one, therefore taking 29 supply out of the entire collection, which is cool.
That is cool. I should know this, and I think I did know this, and I'm blanking on it. Was this on like a bespoke site, or who did you do this drop with?
So it's on my own custom site,
okay,
and it's stateoftheart.world. And obviously there's many meanings to that. It's like the technology state of the art.
Do you know of other state of the arts? That feels like such a fun, cool pun, and also something I would think somebody else has done at some point.
Yeah,
I love it.
Hasn't been done.
I don't mean that offensively.
No, to my knowledge, it hasn't been done. I searched OpenSea and I saw like there was one NFT called State of the Art, I think, but it wasn't like, I don't even think it was listed for sale, and it was still owned by the artist or something. There was like some weird thing about it, but I'd never seen a collection like that. And so to me, it had obviously many meanings. When choosing the site, I wanted it to be stateoftheart.world because, this is where we are in the art world. And yeah, so and then the dev team that I worked with was Transient Labs, who I just became like big fans of. I was already working on this project, and then they released a project with Brian Brinkman called Shatter. And Shatter, what it is you can buy it as a one of one, and then you have the option to keep it as a one of one, or you can shatter that to make it an edition of 100 and sell, and then you get to sell those. So like, so Pack bought the one of one from Brian Brinkman and shattered it and then sold them as editions at whatever price he wanted to, or something like that.
That's cool.
So I saw this and I was like, wait, that's in the world of what I'm doing, but actually the opposite, because I'm like selling it all together.
Breaking it apart instead of fusing it together.
Yeah, and each piece is different, so it's not like additions. But I was like, but I like the way of these thinking, and I watched the mechanic and how it worked, and I was like, it's so flawless. And I was like, who did this? And then someone's like, I was in a DM with Brian Brinkman. He's like, Transient Labs, and then someone's like, oh, I can introduce you. So I linked with those guys. I told them the concept, and they got it right away. And what's cool about them is they had ideas also, and they brought like creative ideas to the table of like, well, you could actually do this and this. And so, yeah, it was great. Like, honestly, like I've never had a drop work as flawless without any errors or anything like that than I did with them.
So cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned Instagram earlier, like you can go direct to your audience now via Instagram, even without NFTs. Of course, that doesn't solve the problem of like, if you want to buy a digital piece of art and the ownership piece there, which of course NFTs solve. But I'm curious if you have thoughts on what Instagram's doing with NFTs and selling directly on the platform. And if you're excited about that, or if you're hesitant because it's meta, where do you land?
Well, for me personally, I haven't thought about doing anything there yet personally, just because I don't know if it's where I'm at right now, but I'm really excited about it. I think that it's a big move, and I think that love them or hate them, Meta is like one of the biggest, right? So anytime someone that big comes in, you're kind of like, see, other people believe in this too, and I'm not crazy. It's like even the rich top company, whatever, like is betting a lot on this. And so I think it's a big sign that they're doing that. And I've seen artists sell out really fast, which is cool. So I'll be interested to see how more up and coming artists use it, because as of right now, it's been like, Vinny Hager had a sellout, and like all these people that like I know who they are already.
Yeah.
Were selling out pretty fast. And so it's like, and that could have just been like, maybe they did the same drop on foundation and it sold out just as fast, who knows? But what I liked is that it's on Polygon. And I think that I personally believe that Polygon will be like one of the big names in the NFT space. I think that they're like very trusted from like, the outside world. Like if we're all like, oh, ETH and this and that, but like brands on the outside that don't fully understand like all the inside stuff that we've been paying attention to for so long, they trust Polygon. And so I think
they look at they're like Starbucks, Nike, Disney,
exactly.
or, like they look at all the brands. Did Nike do Polygon actually? I guess I shouldn't say that. I should say, but Reddit,
sure.
I mean, you can go down the list. There's so many big brands, so it becomes brand safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it's just like, you go where the trust is. And then obviously like, before it was kind of like, oh, well, what's the gas price? Like, like the gas price situation before was just insane to be like, oh, I'm buying this piece for $500 and oh, there's $100 gas fee on it. Okay. like that's not normal. So
right.
That's why I was originally bullish on like other chains for like, the mass adoption era. But, obviously that's calmed down a lot with everything with ETH. But yeah, I think Poly will be big. And so I think that it's cool that Meta's doing it and pushing that forward. And I would like to say that I don't own any like Matic or anything like that. So I'm not like,
pumping a bag.
I'm not pumping any of my own bags.
I do own some Matic, but I promise it has nothing to do with what I'm doing here. It's so trivial. I think I buy like $25 of Matic like monthly or something.
Can we pump my Solana bags? Because those need some...
Man, if I had the power to pump bags at this point, Ryan, ThankYouX.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know. I'm trying to make a pun. I'm sure you've heard that a lot of times. I really appreciate you coming on. This was such a fun, awesome conversation. I'm so excited about what you're doing with state of the art, the state of the art. State of the art. State of the art. And I don't know if we mentioned it earlier, but February is when that's all going to come together, that you merge your piece to claim your physical piece. And is there anything that people should do? They can go on OpenSea, I believe, if you want to.
One fun way to do it is if you go to stateoftheart.world, you can click on, if you have you connect your wallet, you click on one of the paintings and you can see actually like the grid pop up and shows you all the pieces and like what pieces you own. So you can click around and see who owns the other pieces around you. Like a lot of people were trying to like get a piece next to, a collector or a different artist that they like, or like Snoop Dogg or something, like they all wanted to be like around people and then, or what's for sale out there. So, it's just like a fun gamified thing, but I'd say like go to the website and look around, because we took a lot of time building it and it's really fun if you take a look at it.
Love it. Stateoftheart.world. No.
Yep.
Stateoftheart.world. Oh, great. Okay, good. We'll put it in the show notes. So you don't have to memorize this. We'll just link to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.